You know, one of the things that's incredibly frustrating in love is when someone only starts to recognize your value after you're gone. It's like they couldn't see the gold while they were holding it, but the second you slip through their fingers, suddenly they're wide awake. And it's not just frustrating, it's painful, because you think to yourself, why now? Why couldn't you see me when I was still trying, when I was still choosing you? The truth is, a lot of people, especially men, don't register what they had until the silence kicks in, until the texts stop, until the "are you okay" messages vanish, until the comfort of knowing you were always going to be there suddenly disappears. And in that space, they panic. But that panic, it's not romantic, it's not some poetic sign of love. It's just the sudden realization that they lost something real, something they never thought would actually leave. You were there, present, loving, maybe even patient, far longer than you should have been. You showed up in ways that made his life easier, more stable, more supported. You were the one thinking ahead, planning, checking in, picking up the emotional slack. But because you were consistent, you were taken for granted. And it's not that he didn't care. It's that he didn't feel the urgency to act like he did. He assumed your presence was permanent, that you were part of the furniture in his life, comfortable, reliable, always within reach. And now he's sitting in the emptiness of the space you used to fill, and it's hitting him like a wave. The very things that made you special, the warmth, the effort, the loyalty, those things that he never really commented on are suddenly glaringly obvious in their absence. He didn't realize how good he had it because he never really stopped to think about what life would be like without you in it. But now he's getting a front row seat to that reality. And here's what's important to understand. That realization for him is often far more chaotic than you think. He's not just sad, he's disoriented. Because losing someone who loved you deeply when you didn't match their energy is one of the most mentally jarring experiences a person can go through. It creates a loop in the mind. Why did I let her go? How did I not see this sooner? Is it too late to fix it? That loop plays over and over, and it drives people to the edge. That's why he's losing his mind, because he finally understands the gravity of what he lost, and he can't rewind time. But that's not your problem anymore. That storm he's in, that's his to sit through. You've already weathered yours. You went through the heartbreak while you were still with him. You cried silently next to someone who made you feel alone. You gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left to give. And when you finally walked away, it wasn't impulsive. It was the result of 1,000 little disappointments, 1,000 unmet needs, 1,000 moments where you hoped something would change and it didn't. So when he starts spinning, sending the "I miss you" texts, or showing up in small, confusing ways, remember this: just because someone finally realizes your value doesn't mean they're ready to rise to it. Awareness and readiness are two very different things. He might now see who you are. He might finally feel the weight of your absence. But that doesn't mean he's suddenly become the person you needed him to be. And sometimes what he's really grieving isn't just you, it's the version of himself that was loved so well by you. It's the comfort of knowing there was someone in the world who truly saw him, who believed in him even when he wasn't showing up at his best. That kind of love is rare, but rare things need to be respected when they're present, not when they're gone. So if you're feeling the tug of guilt or nostalgia, if you're tempted to go back just because he seems to finally be getting it, take a breath. Ask yourself, is he fighting for me now because he loves me, or because he hates the emptiness without me? Is he ready to meet me where I need him to, or is he just scared of the silence? It's not your job to soothe someone into understanding your worth. It's not your job to circle back just because someone is now hurting over your absence. You did your part, you showed up with love, with effort, with heart, and now it's okay to let the consequences of his inaction unfold without trying to fix it. You don't owe him your return. just because he finally noticed your value. You gave him the chance to appreciate you in real time, and he didn't. That's on him. Let him lose his mind. You're finally finding yours. You know what really gets to him? It's not the breakup. It's not even the silence that came after. It's seeing you move on with your life like you were never waiting on him in the first place. That's the moment it all starts to unravel for him. Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. Most guys don't feel the weight of their choices right away. They walk away thinking they'll be fine, that they'll find someone else, that you'll stay stuck wondering what went wrong. But that fantasy crashes hard when he sees you smiling without him, not pretending to smile, not trying to post some half-hearted look at me selfie just to get his attention. I mean, genuinely glowing, genuinely alive in your own life. You're laughing again, making new plans, meeting new people. You're building a future without a trace of his name in it. And that's when panic sets in. That's when he starts asking himself, wait, was she always this happy without me? Was she always this powerful and I just didn't see it? The thing is, men don't fall apart when you cry. They don't lose sleep when you beg them to stay. That version of you, the one pleading for their attention, explaining your worth, chasing their affection, that version is easy to ignore. It strokes their ego. It makes them feel chosen. But when you stop fighting for him, when you stop reaching out, stop checking in, stop keeping the door even slightly open, that's when everything changes. That's when he loses control of the narrative. Because he had this picture in his head of you still being stuck, of you still checking his social media, still wondering if he's moved on, still hoping for a text. But instead, you're out there reclaiming your power, and he's watching in disbelief. That's the version of you that haunts him, not the one who cried, but the one who rose. And it's not just your strength that shocks him. It's how effortless you make it look. Like you didn't just lose something, like maybe he did. That's the twist. He thought he was the prize that he could pull away and you'd come chasing. But when he sees that you're not just surviving without him, you're better. That's when the guilt hits. That's when he realizes he wasn't the one holding you up. You were carrying the relationship. You were giving the energy. You were showing the love. Now that you've taken that love and started giving it to yourself, the imbalance is impossible to deny. He's left with nothing but the echo of what could have been. And instead of feeling wanted, he feels replaceable. That's terrifying for him. Because now it's not just about you being gone. It's about you no longer needing anything from him. Not closure, not validation, not even an apology. And he'll start spinning. He'll scroll through your photos, looking for signs of sadness. He'll overanalyze a smile in your Instagram story, wondering if it's real. He might even reach out with something casual. Hey, just thinking about you. As if that one message can erase the fact that he never fought for you when it actually mattered. And the reason he does that, it's not to win you back. It's to soothe himself, to feel like he still matters, to get back even a fraction of the emotional power he once had. But here's where your strength becomes your protection. When you don't take the bait, when you don't entertain that half-hearted return, when you recognize that his regret is not your responsibility. Because let's be honest, if he had truly valued you, he wouldn't be watching your glow up from the outside. He would have been right there next to you, building that life together. The real test of love isn't how someone reacts when they lose you. It's how they treat you when they still have you. And if he only realized your worth once you were already gone, that's not love. That's loss. Big difference. So if he's losing his mind now, let him. That chaos, that discomfort, that's his to carry. Your job is not to rescue him from the consequences of his own choices. Your job is to keep walking forward, to keep becoming the woman who never needs to be begged for love, who never waits to be seen, You already know your worth. You're just not letting someone else's delay in recognizing it make you question it anymore. Let him lose his mind. You've already found your peace. Sometimes when a guy loses you, what he's really losing isn't just you. It's the feeling of control he once had. And that's important to understand, because not every man who comes back is coming back out of love. Sometimes he's coming back because he's scared of losing his power over you. You see, in the relationship, maybe you were the one always showing up, the one who forgave, who gave second chances, who stayed through the inconsistency. And somewhere along the way, he got used to that. He got used to the idea that no matter how many times he failed to meet your needs, you'd still be there. Maybe not happy, maybe not fulfilled, but still there. When a guy feels like he's got that kind of emotional safety net, he stops trying. Not because he's evil or heartless, but because he's human. And we tend to take for granted what we think won't leave. And so when you finally leave, when you actually pull away, not just threaten to, but truly disconnect, suddenly he starts spiraling. That's when the panic sets in. But let's be honest. Is he really panicking because he finally woke up to the deep, unwavering love he has for you? Or is he panicking because he's lost the comfort, the ego boost, the version of himself that only existed when he was next to you? That's a critical distinction. He might text you now with more urgency. He might say all the right things you've been aching to hear for months. He might even cry. And while all of that may look like love on the surface, what it often is fear. Fear of losing control, fear of watching you step into your worth without him, fear of no longer being the guy who gets to affect you. There's something incredibly addictive about knowing you have emotional influence over someone. It feeds the ego. It creates a false sense of power. And when he loses that, when you finally stop reacting, stop chasing, stop needing him, he starts to feel powerless. That loss of power is what many men confuse with heartbreak. But here's the danger. If you don't see this clearly, you'll mistake that panic for transformation. You'll believe he's changed just because he's hurting. But pain doesn't equal growth. Pain doesn't mean he suddenly became the man you wanted him to be all along. Pain is just pain. And people will do a lot of things to stop pain, but not all of them are permanent. He might beg, he might apologize, he might make promises, and in that moment, he's sincere. But sincerity under pressure doesn't always lead to sustainability. When the fear subsides, when he feels he has you back, what then? Will he maintain the effort, or will he slowly slide back into old habits, now reassured that his grip on you has been reestablished? This is why you need to ask yourself the hard question: is he fighting for you, or for the version of the relationship where he felt safe, validated, and in control? Because if it's the latter, then his love is conditional. It's based on how much of his identity is tied to your presence, not on who you are as a person. Real love isn't about control. It's not about owning someone or knowing they'll always be there, no matter how they're treated. Real love is mutual respect. It's showing up even when no one's walking away. It's being consistent when things are easy and when they're not. So don't be fooled by the chaos he's in now. Yes, he's losing his mind. Yes, he might be waking up to some regrets. But regret isn't the same as change. You don't owe someone a second chance just because they feel bad. You don't have to hand your heart back just because someone's finally scared of losing it. This moment is about you, about how far you've come, about the strength it took to walk away, not in bitterness, but in clarity. And clarity is power. When you see someone's motives clearly, you stop romanticizing their pain. You stop confusing emotional instability with emotional depth. You begin to realize that just because someone misses you doesn't mean they're meant for you. So yes, he may be losing his mind right now, but you're finally finding your peace. That's the part you don't trade back. His breakdown doesn't equal your obligation. Let me say that again. Just because he's breaking down now, reaching out, maybe even falling apart over losing you, it does not mean you're supposed to go back. I know how easy it is to interpret that pain as a sign that he finally gets it, that he finally sees your worth, and maybe part of him does, but pain, especially in the moment, isn't always clarity. Sometimes it's just fear. Fear of losing comfort, fear of facing the consequences of taking someone for granted. And fear has a way of making people say exactly what we want to hear. He might be texting you now with long messages, maybe even calling, crying, apologizing, saying things like, "I've never felt this way before," or "I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." That can be powerful to hear. It hits you right in the heart because you wanted him to say those things when you were still with him. You waited for that moment, for him to wake up. So when it finally comes, it's tempting to feel like this is the moment everything changes. The moment the movie ends, the music swells and love wins. But life isn't a movie. People don't change because they're in pain. They change because they decide to grow. And growth takes time. It takes consistency. It takes effort when it's no longer convenient. So if he's suddenly showing emotion, don't let the drama of that moment cloud your judgment. Emotion without evolution is just noise. You see, when someone is losing their mind because they lost you, their desperation can masquerade as transformation. But desperation isn't love, it's panic. And panic makes people do whatever it takes to soothe the discomfort. That can mean grand declarations, showing up at your door, even begging. But none of that tells you whether they're capable of showing up for you 6 months from now, when things are stable again, when the intensity fades and the everyday effort matters more than the dramatic gestures. I want you to ask yourself a hard question. If he wasn't afraid of losing you, would he still be doing any of this? Because true change isn't driven by fear. It's driven by values, by maturity, by a willingness to look in the mirror and own our mistakes, not just for the sake of winning someone back, but because we want to be better people. The kind of people who don't need to lose someone to start acting right. So when you hear those apologies, those promises, those desperate cries of "I'll do better, I'll be better," take a breath, step back. Don't get swept up in the emotion. Look for patterns, not performances. If the man standing in front of you today is the same man who repeatedly dismissed your needs, failed to prioritize you, or only showed up when he felt you slipping away, then you owe it to yourself to question the sincerity of this sudden change. This is the part where you hold your boundary, not because you're trying to punish him, not because you don't still care, but because your peace, your growth, and your standards matter more than nostalgia. You leaving wasn't a tactic. It was a necessity. And unless he's shown over time that he's actually grown, not just reacted, then your job isn't to rescue him from the consequences of losing you. It's to protect the progress you made when you walked away. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to hate him, but you also don't need to confuse guilt with grace. You can have compassion for someone and still keep your distance. You can acknowledge their pain without sacrificing your progress. Because let's be honest, if you go back now, if you rush into something just because he's hurting, what happens when that pain goes away? What happens when the comfort returns? Does he stay consistent, or do old patterns resurface? That's the real test. And it can't be passed in a week of good behavior or a string of emotional texts. It takes time. Real, uncomfortable, effort-filled time. So unless he's been showing up with changed behavior, not just intense emotion, don't mistake his breakdown for your breakthrough. You've done the hard part already. You walked away from something that wasn't serving you. Don't let a few emotional fireworks drag you back into the same storm. Stand in your peace. Trust your progress. And remember, regret may open his eyes, but it doesn't rewrite the past or guarantee a better future. His breakdown doesn't equal your obligation. You were the wake-up call he didn't know he needed. He thought you'd always be there. That no matter how distant he became, how distracted, how careless, you'd still show up, still text back, still forgive, still give him just one more chance. Because for a long time, you did. Not because you were weak, not because you didn't have options, but because you loved him. You saw the potential in him. You wanted it to work. And that's what he took for granted, your consistency, your patience, your presence. Then, one day, something in you changed. And here's the thing about people like you. You don't slam doors. You don't make a scene. You don't walk out with fireworks. You slowly step back, quietly, calmly, with grace. And he didn't even notice it at first because he was so used to you bending, so used to you coming back until suddenly you didn't. That's when the panic set in. That's when he started to replay everything. The moments he brushed you off, the times he acted too cool to care, the days he thought you'd always be around no matter what. Suddenly, he's asking himself questions he never thought he'd have to ask. Why did she stop reaching out? Who is she with now? Was she really this time? That's when he starts to lose his mind. Because now he's not in control of the narrative anymore, you are. And what's even more painful for him to realize is that you never left to prove a point. You left because you were done trying to prove yours. And nothing messes with a man more than a woman who stops explaining herself and simply exits. And now you're his wake-up call. Now, for the first time, he's confronting the version of himself he's been avoiding. The one who couldn't meet you halfway. The one who thought love was guaranteed. The one who mistook your kindness for permanence. You weren't a game. You weren't trying to make him jealous. You weren't putting on a show. You just reached a point where you decided that your peace was more valuable than his potential. And that shakes him. Because deep down, he knew you were different. You weren't like the rest. You challenged him in ways that scared him. You saw right through his ego, right through the performance, and into the part of him he didn't want anyone to see. You loved him anyway. And now that you're gone, he's starting to feel the depth of what he lost. Not just the attention, not just the companionship, but the emotional safety you gave him, the way you saw him, even when he couldn't see himself. But this is the part he never considered. When someone like you leaves, they don't come back the same. Even if he gets another chance, it won't be the same version of you. Because once a woman truly sees herself again, sees her worth, sees her light, sees how peaceful life can be without the chaos, she doesn't just slide back into the old story. That chapter is closed. And that's why he's spiraling. Because it's not just regret he's feeling, it's helplessness. He can't unring the bell. He can't rewind to before the damage. All he can do is sit in the echo of your absence and wonder how he let it get this far. And maybe, just maybe, that's what he needed. Not another chance, not another explanation, but the silence, the void, the mirror. Maybe your absence is the one thing that finally forces him to grow, to reflect, to take accountability, not just for losing you, but for why he lost you. You became the wake-up call he didn't know he needed. But you didn't do it by yelling. You didn't do it by trying to convince him. You did it by leaving, by choosing yourself. And that, more than anything, is what's shaking him to his core. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to try harder or to prove your love. It's to walk away with your dignity intact, knowing that your silence will echo louder than any words ever could. Because when you finally stopped chasing him, he finally had to face himself. He's losing his mind. because he lost something great. And you, on the other hand, are finally finding peace. It's crazy, isn't it? How two people can come out of the same breakup living in two completely different realities. He's spiraling, questioning himself, wondering what just happened, replaying every conversation. He's starting to realize what he let go of. Meanwhile, you're waking up a little lighter each day. You're rediscovering yourself, your joy, your confidence, your energy, the very things that started fading when you were still trying to make it work. And that's what happens. When someone takes you for granted long enough, your spirit starts to dull. You try harder, you explain more, you give more chances, you wait for them to catch up emotionally, to reciprocate, to see you. And when they don't, you slowly stop recognizing yourself. That beautiful, magnetic, open-hearted version of you starts shrinking. Not because you aren't still amazing, but because you were pouring into a cup that had a hole in the bottom. So when you finally walk away, when you finally say enough, it's not a dramatic moment. It's a quiet shift. It's not about punishing him. It's about choosing you. And then suddenly that shift hits him. Not always immediately, but it comes. He starts feeling the distance. He doesn't hear from you anymore. Your voice, your presence, your softness, it's not there. The safety net he always assumed he had is gone. And that's when it begins. The panic, the overthinking, the calls at odd hours, the long, introspective texts. He starts imagining you with someone else. He realizes the gravity of your absence. That's when he starts losing his mind. And here's the twist. It's not just about you being gone. It's about you no longer needing him. That's what really rattles him. Because deep down, he got used to you being the one who cared more, who chased peace in the relationship, who forgave, who showed up with love even when he brought indifference. And now you stopped. You stopped making him the center of your emotional world, and you've started becoming the center of your own. That's what disturbs him most. Now he's trying to figure out if he misread everything, if he underestimated you, if you were always this powerful, but he just didn't see it. The truth, you were always powerful. You were always loving, generous, strong, but your strength wasn't loud. It was in your patience.